Hello folks and welcome back to Medieval Total War. I'm Stip and this is going to be part 2 of my Aragon army composition tutorial. And in part 1 I did cover the units that are available at tier 1 and I sort of went over the limitations in regards to the Catholic army roster in general at that lower tier. But luckily for us, now in tier 2 things do start to open up for us. So we have access to a few handy units like the Feudal Men-at-Arms, which is going to be our first swordsman unit, which is going to help us cut through lightly armored troops, and it's a good all-rounder unit. Good defense, it has a decent shield value, armor value, although not heavily armored, but still. It's a unit that can work as a reserve sweeper unit that can kind of plug gaps and win fights against, as I said, lightly armored units and spears. But then it can also kind of hold its ground in bad fights. Like you don't want it to be fighting cavalry, but in this tier, you're typically not going to be facing off against too many heavy cavalry threats. There are going to be Royal Knights and Gulam bodyguards available, but typically not in great numbers. So even in poor fights, the Feudal Men-at-Arms can at least hold their ground and survive until help does come. And then another unit available at this tier, the Militia Sergeant. It's going to be a bonus versus armor troop that's just an upgrade over the urban militia, and I did overlook this unit when I played this game, when I first started playing this game, and I've come around on it. Like, this is a pretty sturdy unit. It really does do a lot of good work, and it's a vast upgrade over the urban militia in stats, armor values. Armor's not even that bad. It doesn't have a shield, but does have an armor value of 3, I think. So like, it's not that bad, and that bonus versus armor. Now, sure, you're not going to be seeing too many heavily armored units at this tier, but against those bodyguard units, they can pack a punch. So that's a nice little tool to have. The Feudal Sergeants, which is going to be our upgraded spearmen. Finally, a nice decent spear unit that can have decent morale. The armor value is again somewhat low, so it's going to be taking casualties from arrow fire, sure, but it's a 100-man unit that can hold its ground. So it's nice to have those guys. And I think, let's see, everything else here. Yeah, we've already talked about how the Almogavars are not actually available to the Aragonese, unfortunately. And yeah, Feudal Foot Knights are also not a recruitable thing. You can dismount Feudal Knights in castle siege battles. That's it, which is really unfortunate. You can't recruit them, and they're not even a tier 2 or 1 unit. It's a tier 3 unit for the Feudal Knights, so we're not going to be covering those. Then we get into the cavalry section, and this is where things do open up for us. I think that, yeah, so we can't actually recruit Royal Knights now to tier 2, which is nice. And the Spanish Jinetes are a Jav-Cav unit, Javelin Cavalry, and that's going to be the only Jav-Cav unit that's available in this game, so they're pretty handy. Honestly, not a bad melee soldier. They can be pretty annoying to deal with when you're on the opposing side. Because you think like, sure, I just have to, catch them and chase them and beat them in melee, but they can kind of handle their own okay in a melee. And with their javelins, whatever units that's not fighting can kind of just sit back and throw their javelins. Now it's only a handful of volleys. I think it's like 4 volleys. It's not a lot, but still, javelins can do a bit of damage, especially against heavily armored units. And then the Mounted Sergeant, which is kind of the boring unit that's available to all Catholic factions. I'm pretty sure that's true. And that's your tier 2 shock cav, I suppose, is the best way to describe them. They're solid. Yeah, they're solid. So I'm probably going to be using those in this army composition. Better on the charge, sure, but yeah, all around they are useful. So the Feudal Knights, as I said, they are a tier 3, so they will not be used in this army comp. And we're going to be fighting up against the Almohads. And if you've seen my Almohad army composition tutorials, you know that they are a capable faction, especially at this tier. So like, this is not going to be the easiest test for, I mean, it's going to be a good test, yes, but it's not going to be the easiest fight for me to come up with a solid army comp that compete up against the Almohads, because the Almohads, like, they got some, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen those videos, but they got some good tools. Their Almohad Urban Militia are a good swordsman that the Feudal Men-at-Arms, like, how do they match up? I'm pretty sure this unit does have like one stat that's superior. It's like 1 higher defense or 1 higher attack or something. Can't remember what it is. But the thing is that the Almohad Urban Militia can be recruited from Granada with +1 valor. So that that does tip the scales in favor of the Almahad Urban Militia, I'd say, right? Now, the Almahads don't start off with any tech in that province, so they do have to build it up from scratch, but still, that's going to be available eventually. So just assume that you will be losing those fights one-on-one. Just assume that, and then you won't be surprised when you do. So how do you go about winning fights that you expect to lose? I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's important to make it so that you don't lose that fight quickly. This is a concept that I describe as kill fast, die slow. So when you're going to be in situations where you're losing, lose slowly, so that in your engagements where you're winning, win those quickly. You know, it seems like a simple concept, and it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be advice for helping you sort of conceptualize how to think about your engagements. So you don't want your spears fighting up against the enemy Almahad Urban Militia. They'll be just dicing through them. So you still want your swords, your Freedom Men-at-Arms, to match up against the enemy's Almahad Urban Militia. Why would you do that? Because I just said that the Almahad Urban Militia are going to be better with their +1 Valor. So why would I do that? Well, it's because this unit still has the best chance. The Freedom Men-at-Arms still has the best chance of holding out for as long as possible until I can win engagements in other parts of the battlefield that allow me to free myself up and then numerically, outnumber the Almahad Urban Militia and turn in on them. So I don't want spears holding that line against their swords. It's just not. It's not going to work. They're going to cut through me too quickly. So for this comp, I'm thinking 2 spearmen and then 3 archers. I don't like to go more than that. Going more than that's just a little bit too risky. I think the AI in this game is a bit better than the AI in Shogun at closing the distance and getting in for the kill. So skirmish troops are limited in their functionality. So let's go 3 archers, and then let's go 4 swords to match up with the 4 swords that I had in my Almahad army comp. And then let's bring the javelins. I like using the javelins. That's my unique unit for the Aragonese and the Spanish. But you don't have to. If you don't want to use javelins, you can use the militia sergeants. Go for it. They serve a similar function, but the javs got that cool factor going for them. So that's what I'm doing. It's all about being cool, right? So then, Spanish Genites, sure, definitely want them. And then I do think I want the mounted sergeants. I think I want to be able to punch a little bit, Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I was tempted to go 3 Genites and then using that last spot for an extra spearman. But I feel like I want those 2 mounted sergeants. So let's see how this goes. Now let's check out how I'd like to have this army grouped up here. So spears and archers, I like to have them grouped up together here. And then I like to have my swords and javelins. And here's the thinking behind this. See, the thing is that, as I mentioned before, Cav do want to charge my swords, typically. Now, as I said, there's not going to be too many heavy threats charging my swords at this tier level. But a good counter against Cav is javelins, so having them back here to sort of throw javelins at whatever charges my swords is an option. They can obviously help against the enemy swords if I get that matchups that I want. So that's all going to be set up there. And it's just really easily controllable. The thing is that as much as I do complain about how the grouping system in this game is a bit more, I don't know, it's not as tight as it was in Shogun. A lot of the groups don't make sense, but combining melee with ranged always does work. So that's just a really simple way to go about it if you do just happen to have that set up. Another thing that does work is cav and ranged. Grouping up cav with ranged does work as well, and that's a very easy way to do it. And then the cav, yeah, we'll just see, where I want them. The Genites don't have to be over here, and the mounted sergeants don't have to be over here. In my brain, I'm kind of thinking these guys can be the guys that maybe break the flank if we're charging into swords that are already engaged with my swords. Yeah, we'll see. And then if this is going to be sort of the holding side, not the, killing side, then having some, Genites, the sort of, this can kind of be the delaying side, right? Archers, javelins. But of course, because it's all grouped up together, we can just kind of switch everything around based on how I'm seeing the enemy matchup to try to get the engagements that I want. And just for starters, these guys are all going to be on hold position and hold formation. Swords will be on engage at will. Jabs will be on hold position and hold formation. And Chinitas are going to be on skirmish mode. I go into my battles assuming that I'm going to suck. And that's how I, try to get myself in a winning position, is by saying, look, I'm going to fuck up. Let's just make it as easy as possible for myself. All right, let's go see what they have now. Where are their swords? So their swords all look like they're on the left side based on what I'm seeing. So of course they could change their mind, but based on what I'm seeing, I might move and they might switch it. But based on what I'm seeing, I think I want these guys. Oosh. God damn it, I always do it. Okay. I always forget that, yeah, we can't set our groups in this game during the early part. There we go. And just as a reminder to do that, once you have your guys grouped, just press 4, and then you're going to get your melee infantry in front of your ranged infantry, and that's how that's going to work. Nice and easy. You just have to remember that you can't do that during the pre-battle phase in this game. You can do it in Shogun, but not in this game. And when I say you have to remind yourself, what I really mean to say is I have to remind myself, because you can tell that I clearly I'm still doing that. I get my guys manually into position and I'm like, sweet, all right, yeah, we're all set, we're all ready to go. And then I'm like, oh no, that's not, I didn't set my groups. Nope. All right though, so yeah, as you can see, they're starting to mix their forces a little bit more, so it's not cleanly spears and swords. We have a swordsman coming over here. But if the majority of the swords are still on this side, then this is what I want. Now, I also did mention this in my Almohads videos, but the camels that are available to the Almohads are a really tricky unit for the Catholics to kind of deal with. I'm thinking about kind of, let's see, what do I want to do here? Actually, no, maybe, yeah, choose this side as my hitting side. And then bring my mounted sergeants on over here. And then this is my delaying side. And to really set that, let's actually come back here. And just kind of give ground a little bit. So that we can delay engagement on this side for as long as possible. And then push with this side. So let's get my mounted sergeants running so that they can get into position. And yeah, Cav against the Bedouin camels. Like, it's they're a camel archer unit, so they can be tricky because they're better in combat against Cav than you would want them to be. They're really kind of annoying. So let's see, we got a spear line charging right on ahead, which is interesting. Yeah, spears and swords. They're actually going really pretty heavy into the side, which is yeah, it's going to make things difficult. So let's try to get jabs on over here. And can camels charge it? I mean, Jesus. They're just going. And let's get mounted sergeants here. And then let's get you guys into here. And let's turn off. Let's just go here. And get into these Saharan Cav. And just try to overwhelm them. And yeah, try to get charges in here. Didn't really get many charges in there, but that's fine. And then yeah, you throw your javelins here and then here. And yeah, swords are attacking our spears, which are always going to be, that's always going to be tough. And it looks like we got a nice little break here. If I can get my jabs up to throw into their Gulam bodyguards, that'd be really nice. And oh, we got a full break right there. Yeah, we just crushed them. Holy smokes. Yeah, very nice. So they're still pushing on the side, and just as I say that, they start to break. Wow. Wow, that was decisive. And I'm kind of surprised it was that decisive because, yeah, as I mentioned before, the Almohads got some tools at this tier, but you know what? There we go. And that's a decent demonstration of how this army can work. Let's see if we can get some javelin tosses into this Gulam bodyguard right here. There's a javelin. Did we kill any? No, we didn't kill a single one. How about there? Jesus, 2 volleys and still nothing. 3 volleys. Hey, there they go. They lost 3 guys on that volley. And now he's running away. And we still have more volleys left. Interesting. I kind of thought that was going to be it for us, but no, they still have something left there. That's going to do it. So how did we do here? So yeah, Royal Knights, my king, or my leader, got 1 point of valor, or no, 0 points of valor. but many men captured. Feudal sergeants, yeah, they just held the line. Didn't do a lot of killing, but they just kind of stood there and took it like champs. Archers, 17 kills, 11 kills, and 7 kills. Feudal men-at-arms, 5, 6, 11, and then 34. Spanish javelin, 11, and then 1. And that was all just like in the initial volley right there. And then Genites, 8, and then 10. And then mounted sergeants, 15, and then 8. So the kills are not like super substantial because most of the work was done during the routing phase. But there you have it. That's a functional tier 2 army for the Aragonese. And now let's check out a tier 3. Once we get into the tier 3 for the Catholic factions, this is where the heavy cav component of this army roster starts to open up, because now we have access to these feudal knights. This is finally going to be our first full strength unit that can do heavy cavalry charges the proper way. Without worrying too much about their survivability, they're going to be, winning most of their fights, of course, against units that, don't hold spears, I suppose, is one way to put it. Obviously, well, in this case, I'm going to be fighting up against another Catholic faction, so we're not going to be getting any, advantages in that regard, because I'm giving the Italians 3 feudal knights as well. Now, I'm going to be giving them mounted crossbows, and I'm going to be sticking with my Genites for my light cav. So we will see how they perform, and then my chivalric sergeants is going to be my heavy spearman unit that is available at tier 3. Now, the trade-offs versus the chivalric sergeants and the feudal sergeants is kind of bizarre, because this unit, the chivalric sergeants, is not a straight upgrade to the feudal sergeants. The feudal sergeants actually do have higher attack by just a little bit, just by 1 point, I believe, and then higher morale by 2 points, which is weird. But the chivalric sergeants do have higher defense and then higher armor ratings, so yeah, there is something to consider there. But still, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to be using the chivalric sergeants because they are heavy, tanky boys. And then chivalric men-at-arms. This is going to be our upgraded swords unit, and they're just fantastic, just real, buzzers. They will just kind of buzz through enemy lines. Now, again, you have to sort of use these units to counter enemy swords as well, because enemy swords will just buzzsaw through your own spearmen units. But we are at the point of the rosters where there's going to be more armor. So in certain engagements, the chivalric men-at-arms capabilities is going to start to fall off a little bit. But in this case, I think they're still going to be doing just fine. And then we do have access to crossbows. Now, in case you did not watch my Elma Heads Army Comps tutorials, crossbows are available at tier 2. They are, but because of the way the custom battles work in this game, I have to choose between either early or high or late period, and crossbows are only available in the high period. So here we are using crossbows for this tier 3, but just know that if you are in game, they can fit within tier 2s, but I mean, by the time high period comes around, you can have up to tier 4 units. You just have so much time to build stuff. So we're going to be using the Pavis crossbows. It's going to be making that Pavis is going to be making them slower, and it's going to make them fatigue faster if they're going to be doing a lot of walking around. But it's going to be giving them, well, high defense, obviously, and good protection against enemy missiles, which is going to be important because my enemy army is going to have quite a bit of missiles. So having just a bit of a punching unit here that can kind of hit back a little bit while also staying protected, it's going to be nice. So let's see how we do here against the Italians. Now with this army, here's an idea that I've been liking to try more and more as I get more experience with this game, which is grouping cavalry or heavy cavalry with skirmisher units. It's something that we see a lot in real historical battles, typically on the flanks a lot of times, but I feel like we see it sometimes, up front as well. And it's an interesting thing because you don't really see it a lot in video games. The meta in video games is typically going to be just melee in front, archers in the back. It's just kind of the same thing over and over again. And while you do see those deployments in historical battles as well, this is something that you just see so often that I'm like, man, I really want to kind of, use this and experiment with this more and more. And what I find is that there's a really interesting thing that happens, which is that the enemy really wants to hit these range units, whatever they are, right? And what will they hit with them with? Well, a lot of times they're cavalry themselves. And if I have my own heavy cav guarding my range units, they're going to be hit by their enemy cav. Well, then we can get a little cav showdown here. And if they're going to be baited out from the support of their own army, then they're going to be closer to my own guys, and we can support those engagements and potentially win them as well. And the thing is that even if, again, I like to assume that I'm going to just mess up, right? And I like to assume that my micro is not good. These are my assumptions that I make. So even if I mess up, the thing is that the Pavis crossbows, they have that Pavis. They have a good defensive ability so that they might not fold up immediately. In fact, I can put these guys, are they on hold position? I thought, did I not put them on hold position? What did I just do? Did I just degroup them? Okay, I need to fix that. I'll fix that off camera. But anyway, put them on hold position, hold formation, not skirmish, because again, I want them just to kind of take that charge if it comes. If I'm not perfect, if I don't intercept the enemy charges in time, that's fine. At least in theory, that's fine. And if anything, I have my chivalric sergeants, my spearmen, right behind them. They're right there. They can come to the rescue. They'll be fine. And then swords, they don't have to be in the back here, but they are a perfect reserve type of unit, and they can split off. I have them in one group right now, all in group 3, but I can degroup them and group them separately into group, 2s, 2 and 2 if I need to. Or if I want to have all 4 of them hit one section of the line, I can do that as well. Either of those ideas work. And then my Gentes hanging out back here. I can go up ahead and skirmish, or I can hang back here. It's kind of a sweeper unit. Either or works. Now in this matchup, there's one thing that I do have to be careful of, and that is these Italian infantry, which is a spearman unit that's available only for the Italians, as you can imagine. And they are fantastic. They are some of the best spearmen in this game. Let's kind of back up here so we just don't get shot by those mounted crossbows. And mounted crossbows, that's a unit that my Spanish Gentes, they can win that fight 1v1. However, of course, if I just kind of dive out there, we can get surrounded by their units. So let's just kind of back up here. We don't need to take that. In fact, actually, yeah, there's so much cav over here. Do I want to maybe come back here? It's really tempting to dive those units with one of my Gentes. Maybe I'll break these units off. Maybe I'll think about it. And I did not give their crossbows any Pavis, so I will be winning that skirmish engagement, but they have a lot more skirmishes than I do in general. They have some Genoese crossbows, and they're mounted crossbows as well, so yeah, they could win that. And then, let's see here, so I actually want, as you can imagine, I want my swords to fight their spears. So let's go here, and then, oh, did my knights just charge up their knights? Okay, yeah, knights are impetuous, so that does happen sometimes. So let's just go here, and let's just back up here, because yeah, we're getting chased by those knights. Actually, it's spears, go after those dudes there. And then, oh, yeah, there we go. And then you guys get back. Yeah, that's fine. That is fine. So do we have any spears coming here? Yeah, you guys can charge into these guys, please, please. And you take that, and then you go here, and then you go here. And are you coming in? You are, yeah. I got spears coming in for the rescue. And then Gentes are hanging back. So yeah, they're breaking me on this side. And then Pavis, crossbows. Let's see, knights, go in here, please. And then, ooh, feudal knights on this side. Actually, yeah, let's try to finish them up faster on this side. And Gentes, are you guys shooting into these feudal knights? I hope you are. And yeah, they completely broke me on that side of the battle. And yeah, Pavis are running. Let's get spears coming in here. And then, let's see. Let's turn around my spears, because I feel like I'm going to win this fight up here. I just have a good feeling about this. Yeah, there we go. So that's that break. Now, feudal men, what are you guys doing? Oh, you're running away. No shit, eh? Yeah, that freaking morale. That's so weird. And chivalric men-at-arms. Let's see here. Yeah, that low morale of those units is so funny. That chivalric, not men-at-arms, but those sergeants. So yeah, feudal knights are charging in. We could break this blob, but let's put my guys on engage at will here. And let's see here. Can we clean up here and get those feudal knights, please? And chivalric men-at-arms, dive into this blob here. And yeah, the feudal knights are beating back my Gentes. That sucks. I can't get my royal knights out of here. They keep chasing those chivalric men-at-arms, and that's not the fight that I want them to be in. And can you guys get up there, please? Get up here. And yeah, we did break the enemy general. There we go. Yeah, that was not an easy engagement. So let's try to get here. And yeah, you shoot them. You go here. And then can we clean up these feudal knights that are in our backfield, because they are just kind of causing us issues. Let's see. They're running away. Mounted crossbows are running away. And Yeah, we go there, and then Field of Knights charged up there. Pavis just kind of lined up and chased guys off. So yeah, they gave us a really proper good fight there. And I took a lot of bad engagements for sure. I didn't get my spears engaged as quickly as I should have, but yeah, these things do happen fast sometimes. And I will say, it's a funny thing. I feel like in these custom battles, it so often happens where I'm like, man, I feel like these custom battles, the engagements happen faster than they do in the campaign battles. And maybe it's just when I play on like flat terrain. Maybe that's what I'm kind of observing here. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say sometimes. But these crossbows, can you clean up on the backfield, please? Yeah, get rid of these mounted crossbows. And will my spears beat their... Yeah, it says their Field Knights are winning, but I got 90 chivalric sergeants here. You would think that we would win that. And then my general can get back. Him surviving was a big key to this battle as well. Yeah, because that could have gone poorly if he just kicked the can. So, Pavis, are you guys going to keep shooting those mounted crossbows? You are allowed to. Yeah, I'll allow it. And then, yeah, you guys can shoot those chivalric men-at-arms. Are you guys running away? You are not allowed. That's going to do it. So how did we do here? Yeah, my general, my Royal Knights did quite well. 2 valor gained, 42 men killed. Yeah, he did really well. Field Knights, 24 kills, 7 kills. Chivalric Sergeants, 18, and then 2. Chivalric Men-at-Arms, 74, 16, 54, and 53. Yeah, the backbone of the army. Pavis, 9 and 37. Yeah, that unit didn't do too bad. And then Field of Knights, 9 kills. And then Genites, yeah, they didn't have a home for sure. I did not know... Yeah, something about using them in this battle did not work out very well. But yeah, 3 kills, 5 kills, and 1. And yeah, they just got smacked. Yeah, them giving up my backfield and having them separated from my, Field of Knights, which are in the front line, of course, wasn't, yeah, I don't know, maybe being faster on the draw with my spears. Because when I saw that they were charging my front line with their spears and I went forward with my swords to counter that, I should have just had my spears immediately like swinging out to the flank to help cover that, because that's obviously what they were trying to do, is to collapse in on that flank that was guarded by my Genites. So yeah, that could have been, yeah, looking back on that would have been a better adjustment that I could have made. But in any case, that is a demonstration of my tier 3 army for the Aragonese. And we just have one more video left for this faction itself, which is going to be covering tier 4 and then tier 5. So until next time, this has been Constip playing Medieval to the War. Thank you very much, and goodbye.